The bill I proposed was a bit far-fetched, but was just made and designed to make a statement nonetheless. I have no illusions that it gives me some sort of, it's a paper shield as far as keeping me out of jail or anything like that, but I really wanted to spark the rational discussion about it at the state level. I had called the representatives a couple years past that had sponsored similar bills and asked them why it didn't get in, and I guess it's always been pocket veto. They always basically don't assign it, they don't do it, they don't talk about it. And you look at the reasons cannabis became illegal in the first place, and there's a whole discussion on that end. But then you look at the fact that, wait a minute, 2005 Gallup poll, 78% of Americans are in favor of supporting the legalization of medical marijuana. And it's like, excuse me. When I went to school, I learned that a democracy was something about majority rule, something about voting. How is it that a 78% majority in our country is not getting heard? What's going on? This doesn't sound right at all. This sounds like we have a few key people in power that are upholding the business and drug-pushing industries that like to feed me rat poison, coal tar, and petroleum. I don't eat rat poison, coal tar, and petroleum. I will not eat it anymore. I don't want to touch this stuff. And to have the audacity to tell me that growing a flower out of the ground is illegal when they're pushing gasoline down my throat, that's bullshit. I call bullshit. That's shenanigans. What the heck's going on here? I'm not a car. I do not run on petrochemicals, and that's what they're trying to force on. And
I think it's important for us to mention what HB 277 is actually a medical bill that will allow the chronically ill of our state, Missouri, to be able to have lawful legal access to medical cannabis to treat their chronic illness, and also will provide us protection and also enable us to be able to be treated with the same level of respect that anyone else who's using, any other person who's chronically ill, who's using the pharmaceutical.
Mm-hmm. No, and what it will really do is allow access. It of course could be acquired through somebody that's licensed to grow it for the patient, and also the provision will allow for the patient themselves to grow it. I've got a greenhouse. I've started a business in the last 6 years based around a self-heating and cooling building design template.
My goodness, what haven't you been doing?
You know what? I was actually, you want to talk crazy nonsense, I was actually an apprentice of a man named Christian Ramasa, who was an apprentice of Salvador Dali. I paint prodigiously, and
oh, that's great. I'm an artist too.
Good. It's the best. I tell you what, art's really the best medicine as far as for the spirit. I like to take my painkiller though with the art. I mean, it seems to synergize very well.
So it sounds to me like cannabis hasn't destroyed your life the way that our government has painted the picture. Huh?
Cannabis has done nothing but enrich my life to a degree that I could not have known under petrochemical pharmaceuticals. That my life and the lives of those around me has been enriched beyond measure due to my use of cannabis. And since passing this ordinance in the village, we didn't used to see a police car ever in our village. I have single-handedly, as the mayor, during a time of immense budget cuts, made our little village of 33 people the most patrolled village in the state of Missouri. It's this constant threat mentality now, and we've had family members that have been harassed recently. We have a few other things that have been very shady going on. That for the idea of me speaking out for truth or trying to stand up for my rights is the kind of thing that will get me put in my place. And say, well, wait a minute. I thought my place was the land of the free and the home of the brave. I thought that I had a voice and I had the ability to speak out without fear of some right-wing outback law organization making their own rules to make sure I get in trouble. This doesn't sound very Americana to me. It sounds more like we've got a lot of corporate interests being backed by a lot of people that don't really care what the will of the people is, that don't really care about people suffering. I mean, I'm in real pain. I had, just 2 years ago, the doctor said, so world record bladder stone. He said I probably could have submitted it to Guinness. It was a bladder stone that was the size, larger than a baseball, in my bladder that they took out. I had a kidney stone, and they almost had to remove my entire kidney because of it. That took up the entire meat of my kidney. It was as big as my fist. They had to stick a 1-inch tube straight cut into my kidney to send a laser down there with a sonic blaster and break it up over the course of a week's worth of surgeries. Now, hey, I'm not saying morphine's completely bad. There are some things that morphine is good for. When someone sticks a 1-inch tube in your kidney, you better have some morphine there, because you need to be sedated blind. That kind of pain isn't the kind of thing that cannabis is gonna work for. That's medical, surgical procedure stuff. And that's what that kind of drug should be intended for. Not for every day, oh, your back really hurts, you have all these kidney stones coming out, you've got all these chronic problems. Here, let's dope you up beyond your gourd forever and ever.
Forever and ever.
And that's, I mean, I can't speak highly enough about how my life has been profoundly enriched, and the people around me by this sacred plant. And I look forward to the day when we have the right to keep and bear farms. when I can scream to the mountaintops, free at last, thank God Almighty, my weed is free at last. You know, I want to be able to grow my own medicine and know that it's not going to some drug organization. I mean, the price of cannabis, and it was mentioned on another speaker today, you know, about a year ago, ounce for ounce, cannabis was worth the same as gold, sometimes more in a lot of places. And it's like, well, wait a minute. Who is giving the value of a flower that I can grow with virtually no effort whatsoever? Who is ascribing that value to that flower? And when you look at it, the drug dealers, on one side of the coin, the police departments are on the other side of that coin. That those two things don't exist in the empowerment they do unless there is the law to enforce these kind of prices. I mean, it's the abysmal results of prohibition all over again on a large scale over decades and decades and decades. We're doing nothing but empowering thugs with drugs. We're empowering it's the bread and butter for the most depraved social institutions you can imagine. And it's not going to be a pretty future if we don't stand up and do something about it. If we don't stand up and say, hey, we're the 78% majority. Where are my rights? Where are my constitutional rights? Speaking of the Constitution, a document written on cannabis paper. And it's like, you look at that and it's like, well, wait a minute. The police take an oath of office to uphold and protect the Constitution of the United States of America. How can they be protecting one word of that document if they can't even protect the paper that it's written on? I mean, there's something seriously amiss here in our great country. I mean, the paper that made every page of every Bible that brought us the great message of the teachings of Jesus throughout the ages, that message was brought to you by cannabis and now is so shunned by the religious communities. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever. They don't know where their roots are. They don't know where their heart is. And of course, that could go into a whole other subject.
Every major religion in this world has got roots in cannabis.
Yeah, most definitely.
Well, Joe, I want to thank you on behalf of myself and the chronically ill of our state and our nation for the efforts you've done, the sacrifices you've made, and tell you that appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mark.
And keep up the good work, buddy.
Thank you.
That's it.
Great job.